UFC Saudi Arabia is coming up in a few days, and I'm going to be going over the entire card with my predictions, more in depth on the main event, co-main event, and featured fight. It's a really stacked fight night, only 11 fights, but there has been a lot of pullouts. It still is a good card, especially for a fight night. I mean, you compare it to some of the other Apex cards that we've had recently and are going to have. We're going to have Marvin Vettori and Dolitzy, the rematch, headlining an Apex card. So this absolutely wipes it way better. But I already made a video on the main event, so I'm just going to be giving kind of my final prediction and just how I think that the actual fight is going to go. Starting off with how I think it's going to go on the feet, I think both of these guys are pretty even, both kickboxers. Neither of them really are good at checking leg kicks, but it doesn't seem to really bother them unless it's Alex Pereira throwing the leg kicks. Adesanya, he throws his kicks with a little bit more intent. I think his body kick is really good. And against a guy like Imavov, with his height, his stature, I think going to the body is really going to help Adesanya. He also has the much better gas tank of the two. Imavov, sometimes he's gone 5 rounds before. He does have 5 rounds of gas, but he does slow down in a lot of his fights. I think Izzy, his volume has really improved if you look at his last fight versus Dricus. Most of his career, he's kind of been low output. He recently has changed that, and if he could keep that up in this fight, especially against a guy who fades like a Imavov, it really is going to be a massive weapon for him. I think for the grappling, I don't think Imavov is really going to have much success since like Izzy's takedown defense is so good against the fence. I think in the center, he could take him down. I don't think that he's going to hold him there, though. I don't think that he's going to win like round 3 by holding Adesanya down for the entire round or like 3-4 minutes. I don't really see that happening. I don't think it's going to be like a Brendan Allen situation where Allen is welcoming it to the ground. I don't really see that. And if he shoots in the center, Adesanya has great sprawls. He has great get-up ability. It's going to be really hard to hold him down. And I just think it'll come down to the later rounds, 3, 4, and 5. And who do I trust more there? Adesanya. He has more experience. He's a little bit higher output recently, and I just trust his gas tank more. Also, the judges will probably favor him. He usually gets the judges' nod if it's close. So I'm going to pick Izzy by a 48-47 decision. Imavov, the straight shots are going to be there for him. I think he'll have success. I don't think it'll be a bad, boring fight. I don't think it'll be like fight of the night. I think it's just going to be a competitive kickboxing match that's not awful, but it's not great. Something kind of in the middle. Moving on to the co-main event, Shara Bullet versus MVP. Really good fight. I don't think I've ever picked MVP since he started his UFC career, and I don't know if I'm going to pick him this time. To start off, I don't think we're going to see any grappling exchanges between the two. MVP, he's pretty low output. He kind of just goes for the big shots, kind of showboats. He's not super high output. He does do better when he's able to back up his opponents against the cage. He can control the distance much more easier. We saw that against Ian Gary, especially early on when Ian Gary kept on backing up. But when his back is against the cage, he doesn't do so well. His movement kind of stops and he's not able to control the distance. Shara, though, he fights a lot on the back foot for someone who has such good kicks, but he's pretty good on the back foot. I do think in this fight, though, MVP does a really good job at putting his opponents against the fence, but not really getting too close that you're going to swing in the pocket and just getting out of kicking range. And he's able to just blitz in super fast. Shara does have crazy output, though. His output is much better than MVP's, and I don't think that MVP is, not going to say that he's not a finisher, but I don't see him really finishing Shara, to be honest. Shara, he does better moving forward. We saw that in the Armen Petrosyan fight. As it was in the center or he was on the front foot, he had a lot more success. And with how many kicks he has, I just feel like he can't really afford to constantly be on the back foot. His gas tank also won't be as good that way. And I feel like he's going to have to out-volume MVP. But realistically, I think his main path is catching MVP coming in, which is easier said than done. But I do think it's definitely possible. He has so many tools on the feet. Also think later on, if it does go the distance, his kicks could definitely affect the movement of MVP because he's jumping around, he's all over the place, super hard to catch. He could also get countered coming in. I think Shara, when he throws his kicks, there is a chance, again, that MVP is able to time it and drop him. I don't think he would really finish him that way, though. I don't think MVP... This may be a hot take, maybe just because he fought Kevin Holland, who has a good chin. I don't think he has crazy power. Like, I think if MVP wins, it's just going to be similar to the Kevin Holland fight without grappling in the second round. It's going to be tough for Shara to land the leg kicks with how much MVP moves, though. I think he'll have more success with the body kicks, in my opinion, and the head kicks. But I do believe MVP will definitely win the first round, but I'm not going to pick him. I think Shara will eventually catch him and finish him. MVP is also 37, almost 38. I mean, he can't be this fast forever. I don't think he's going to show his age in this fight, but I have Shara by second round TKO, in my opinion. Moving on, we have Pavlovich versus Rozenstruik. So the odds for this are kind of crazy. I get why. I feel like Pavlovich has kind of overrated power. He's not like a Francis Ngannou. Most of his KOs are just TKOs. He doesn't usually finish guys with one or two punches. Usually it's a combination, just in your face, a flurry, and then you get knocked out. Or, not fully out, but kind of how he did against Tai Tuivasa, Curtis Blades, stuff like that. In his last fight, he did honestly not that bad. If it was a pick'em fight, you'd be like, oh, Pavlovich didn't do that bad, but he was such a heavy favorite and he wasn't able to knock out Volkov, who we've seen Derek Lewis knock him out, That was kind of the expectation, and he just didn't deliver. He was landing good shots in that fight, though, on Volkov. He just couldn't handle the volume of Volkov in that fight. Volkov was throwing 2 times the amount that he was, and he just struggled to close the distance, and he had a real problem with the length of Volkov. And even when he did close the distance and had him against the fence, he just didn't let his hands go, and Volkov was able to just walk straight to the center. I mean, it was unreal. And he doesn't really do a good job of mixing up his targets. He mainly just headhunts, which is kind of a big problem of his. He does land, though, and he lands often. He landed a really good, I think, left hook on Aspinall. Aspinall has a granite chin, so he just ate it. And he also has a little bit, overrated power. Rozenstruik, though, he's a little bit chinny, so I do think Pavlovich, he's the type of guy that could finish him. Kind of like how Pavlovich, he could finish a Curtis Blades, a Tai Tuivasa. Guys who have been knocked out before and are kind of chinny. Rozenstruik is kind of in that mix. And Rozenstruik, he doesn't have the length of Volkov, and he also he throws like inside leg kicks, but he doesn't throw like front kicks that often to kind of push the opponent back. He more so just uses his hands and kind of fights at distance, which is good. He's fast. He is powerful. We've seen, obviously, Pavlovich get knocked out. Obviously, he doesn't have the same power or speed as Tom Aspinall, but because Rozenstruik mainly gets it done with his hands, which kind of plays right into Pavlovich's game, I think Pavlovich will find the shot this time. I have him by a first-round KO, in my opinion. Moving on to some of the other fights on the card. Again, it's a very short card, but it is a pretty good card. Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira, a really good fight. This is a really close fight. Saeed, he's not really a dominant grappler. He has really good submissions, but he's not really like a control guy that often, or at least recently. And his striking is super underrated. A lot of these new-gen Dagestanis, like Umar, Islam, they have really good striking. I get Umar just lost, but still, he's still a good striker. Vinicius Oliveira, also really good on the feet, dangerous, but has solid grappling. He did get controlled by Sopai for about half a round. He was able to reverse the position, but still, that's not a great look. I'm going to go with Saeed by a decision. I don't think that he's going to submit Oliveira. I think Oliveira could get it done, though. I think that's a really good underdog pick. It's just, I've been doing so bad on my predictions that I'm just trying to get, as many fights right as I can right now. So I'm going to go with Saeed, but that's a pick'em fight in my eyes. Then we have Naimov, I think is how you say it. I think he's the guy who recently lost to I forgot who it was, like De Lima or Dos Santos, one of the Brazilians, I'm pretty sure he just lost to. He was doing good in that fight, though. I'm pretty sure he was winning the fight. He also beat Nathaniel Wood, if I'm not mistaken. That was a horrible fight because he was cheating the entire time, and he's fighting Con Ofli. I believe he's the guy, I could be wrong, the Contender Series guy, I'm pretty sure, that got brutally knocked out by Santos. I could be wrong for both of these guys, but I'm pretty sure these are the guys. I'm going to go with Naimov. The knockout that Ofli got was like such a brutal KO, and I just don't see him really coming back from that, and he was losing the entire fight. Pretty small guy. I'm going to go with Naimov by a knockout, second round TKO in my opinion. Moving on to some of the prelims. Only 6 fights on the prelims. We have Fares Ziam versus Mike Davis. Ziam looked amazing in his last fight. I feel like Mike Davis hasn't really beat the best of competition. I get why he's kind of the favorite, but I don't know. I feel like that this is another pick'em fight. I guess I'll go with Mike Davis because I think Matt Frivola is just horrible. I know I picked him, but he is really not good. I think his wrestling is overrated, and I think that his striking is just abysmal. He's just a guy, he's going to go for the finish, he's going to throw big hooks, but a lot of the times he doesn't get the knockout, and he's chinny. I guess I'll go with Mike Davis in this one by a decision. Ziam usually doesn't knock people out, but he landed the perfect knee. Moving on, Shamil Gavez versus Thomas Peterson. This is easy. Shamil by a first round KO. No, I'm kidding. Shamil by decision, in my opinion. Also going to go with Terrence McKinney over Demir because Demir, he's like 38. He's pretty old. He hasn't fought in like 2.5 years. McKinney, he's good. He's legit talented. It's just his striking defense and chin is abysmal. I don't think he's going to get knocked out, though. I think that he's going to get the first round KO. We have Jasmine Judavicius, I think is how you say it, versus Bueno Silva. I picked Bueno Silva in her last 2 fights, and I said I'm never picking her again, so I'm going to go with Jasmine by a decision. The first 2 fights are actual pick'ems. You have Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. I'm tired of picking Brazilian underdogs because they never win. I'm going to go with Bogdan by a decision. And then we have Hamdi versus Jamal Pogues, I think is how you say it. I'm going to go with Jamal Pogues. I think that this is actually a pick'em. I'm going to go with him by a decision. But yeah, that is all my picks. We'll see if they add any replacements. They may. If so, I'm just going to pick it on verdict. But let me know who you guys are picking, especially for the main event, co-main featured fight. I feel like those are the big 3 fights. And the Oliveira and Nurmagomedov fight is really good. But yeah, let me know who you guys are picking. That is it for me. And yeah.